So help me understand that you employ more blacks than me, but you go home to a white woman. Why you don't have a black woman?
Because I fell in love with a white woman, not a black
One and another one until you found the right one.
Because I met a white woman that I fell in love with, and that's the person I'm with today.
Disingenuous.
You imagine how the internet would explode if it was in reverse and somebody white was doing it. And this is where it just drives me up the wall with black folks that think like this. That's why I call them the Black KKK collective group thing, the wokesters. This is why I say they have become the very thing that they once hated. Love doesn't have any color, people. I challenge you to go date someone outside of your race. The man didn't find love with being with a black woman. He found love with a white woman. My son's mom is white. My mama is mixed, white and black. I have a multicultural family. To buy into this racist ass thinking is to deny one whole group of my family, which is why I say mixed children will end up saving the world.
So help me understand that you employ more blacks than...
Okay, so I encourage all of my followers, especially my biracial, multiracial, and multi-generational mixed race people that have pride in your mixed heritage, to follow this king here. His name is Craig Long. I mean, he has almost 500,000 followers, but he really should have more than that, because he's the kind of material that we need to represent us. So lots of love to you, sir. So I just want to talk real quick about Dr. Umar real quick before I take my father out. I'm going to go for a little walk. So I've watched Dr. Umar last maybe 10 years or so, and I will admit he is highly educated, okay? Now, I have not fact-checked his credentials, okay? So I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt because he has really good diction. He's very articulate. He knows laws. He knows his history. He has good felicity when it comes to certain things. He knows the right things to say. But don't be deceived. For those viewers, if you're a proponent of Dr. Umar, yes, a lot of things he says is true. Some things I do agree with. So, see, I'm fair. I look at things holistically. I'm not gonna, bash him or condemn him because of his anti-rhetoric, but we're gonna get to that in a second. But there are some things that he says that he's actually correct on, so I'll give him accolades for that. But what I don't like about him is he claims to be a psychologist and sociologist and has all these master and PhDs, and yet he's spewing all over the internet anti-white rhetoric. That's where you draw the line. That is where I have a big problem with him. He has some other mindsets that bother me too, but that one in particular really bothers me. I'll tell you why. First of all, there's a thing known as transference and countertransference. I have a master's in counseling as well. I used to have a license, but it expired because I had a provisional, which was good for 5 years, but I don't want to renew it because I'm not in the field anymore. But anyways, I still have the education, so nobody can take that from me. And I also have a degree in human services and social work. So one thing is known in the counseling field, that's if you're a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, I say counselor, right? So counselor, therapist, psychiatrist, all those sociologists, etc. One thing is known as, there's a concept, it's known as transference versus countertransference. When you're working with a client, let's say you're adopting some of the tenets from family systems approach, one thing they always tell you to do is to always be extremely, as a therapist or as a professional, be extremely mindful of any biases that you may harbor that could be deleterious to the therapeutic approach. So what that means is, let's say I'm your counselor, you're my client, and you remind me of someone that I used to date that we left on acrimonious terms. That could actually be very, very dangerous to the therapeutic approach, me working with you, because I may apply some biases that I have because of my feelings of someone else that I dated and you remind me of that person upon you. I may project that upon you, which makes it very dangerous. So how can I be fair and an advocate for you when you remind me of my ex-wife, I'm just giving an example, or ex or whoever it is, that we left on bad terms, we didn't leave on amicable terms. You see? It's called countertransference. And then the flip side is, the polar opposite is when you have a client that sees me as a therapist as somebody that he or she may not like because I remind her of her father that abandoned her. Do you get what I'm saying? Or somebody that RAPE her, RAPED her. You see? Because they can't say certain things on TikTok because they censor you. But my point is, then I would have to relieve myself of my counseling duties and assign my client to somebody else that my client does not have those transference issues with, you see? So countertransference and transference can both dynamics can be extremely detrimental and deleterious to the counseling approach. My concern with Dr. Umar is, if you have all these degrees in the social sciences and you keep backpedaling and contradicting yourself, saying, oh, I'm not anti-white, but all your rhetoric and your language tells me otherwise, why are you still practicing? Like, I'm sorry. Your license should have been stripped or revoked a long time ago. How could you have the audacity to go on social media and say to the world, oh, I'm, pro Pan-African or whatever it is, but yet I don't hate white people. I just don't I resent the idea of black people dating interracially. He calls it bunny hopping, which that epithet alone is very disturbing. But he calls it bunny hopping. That's offensive to me, okay? As a biracial person myself, you're talking about my mother. See, this is what I don't get. It's kind of like the blind leading the blind. When you have a person like Dr. Umar that's spreading this anti, whiteness or anti-white rhetoric, why are you as a viewers, if you are discriminated against, why are you supporting that? I thought we're supposed to set a good example. If we don't want somebody discriminated against us, why are you doing it to other people? Is it okay? That gets a pass? Okay, well, you might not discriminate against me, but I can agree with someone that discriminates against a whole group of people. You know how ridiculous that looks? That makes me look like a hypocrite. I'm a fake person. I'm selfish. You can't do it to me, but I can do it to somebody else. This is why I don't like him. And it's really sad because he is highly intelligent. And I'm like, why don't you, Dr. Umar, use your intellectuality to bring people together? I know you're anti-multiculturalism. You talk about that in all your videos. But why don't you use your intelligence for that? To bring people together instead of fostering divisions, oppositions, dissidents, people that don't want to agree to disagree. That's okay. But at least we're still talking. There's dialogue without us calling each other names, without bashing one another, without, spewing rhetoric. Why don't you do that? Spend your energy in bringing people together instead of fostering divisions. But anyways, like I said before, that's the biggest issue I have with you. So you talk about interracial relationships, that you're so much against it, but you love mixed race women. I find that so fascinating. If you're a true Pan-African, don't accept us. I don't claim you. I claim black people that love and accept me as a biracial person, accepts my white mother and my black father, my white family and my black family. Now that is a person I would accept in my life. But you, why would I want you to claim me? Please don't claim me. It's very insulting, okay? Very insulting. And I also feel too with Dr. Umar, that he says a lot of things to just cause controversy. Like he's very polemical. He's a polemical person, not to mention very sophistic. What he says sounds good to the average person, but if you dig deep enough, it is deeply flawed. So like I said, his sophistry doesn't get a pass in my corner. I can pick it up right away where he's coming from. A lot of what he says is flawed. It just sounds good. Sounds good on paper. Like I said, he knows the right felicity. He has the right felicity when it comes to a given situation. But if you dig deep enough, skim all the film at the top and get to the core, deeply flawed. You cannot say that you don't like white people, but you love their genetics, their DNA and mixed race children. It makes absolutely no sense. Don't claim us.